are back. This is Ted Hicks, Late Night Parents, ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com, where you can find the latest blogs. For those of you that have Twitter, the aforementioned Facebook, the evil Facebook, and our latest podcast. We do this every week with the best radio partner, 1240 AM WGBB. And I do this across the table, and I share duties on the MIC with none other than Rich Valdez. Richie V.
Teddy Ted.
What's up, man?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Pretty good. It's another week, really 2 weeks for us.
Yes, it's been 2 weeks. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Last 2 weeks, I will tell you the truth. Last week, I dropped on you that no live show because I want to watch WrestleMania.
Hey, that's all right. Guilty pleasures are allowed. WrestleMania, go for it. Was it a good show?
It was an entertaining show up until the last match.
Now, was this the one that Ronda Rousey made her?
Yes.
Was it her debut in WWE?
It was her in-ring performance debut.
Okay.
All the above.
Okay.
Exceeded expectations.
Good.
For me, it was just a great show.
Okay. That's all.
My son stayed up. I kept him up rather late the following day.
Yep.
It was, pretty hard getting him up for school. But we got to enjoy that experience.
Good. That's all that matters. Glad you had a good time and enjoyed the show.
Yes, sir.
We put up something recorded, but we are back and live.
Yeah, we put up something recorded because been doing a pod here and there with my buddy Sean Armour. He's a great follow on Twitter, true_armor. Very militant, very... Do people even say pro-black anymore?
He just did.
Oh, okay. So did a podcast with him, and we talked about the do's and don'ts when dealing with law enforcement.
I believe I listened to some of that podcast.
And it was kind of, I just stepped back and just let him go because he's a former NYPD officer. Mm-hmm. He's now retired. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good to get viewpoint, from when, here's someone who's been in that business. Right. So that, I guess in our eyes, we would say they're an expert. Right.
We call them subject matter experts.
Yes, subject matter expert. And he basically just let loose. Yep. There were some things he said on the last podcast that he wouldn't say when he was employed.
Yes, because they are listening.
Yes, they are always listening. Always listening, But he's also a dad, just like us. And, you kind of want to support the dads. Sure. Not kind of want to. You have
always
to.
Want to.
You have to. You have to support the dads. Yep. But your week went well.
Week was well. As you know, had a couple of days off from the 9 to 5. Had some stuff to take care of. Business on one day and enjoyment the other. A little bit of running around. That was good.
Okay.
Nice 4 days off. It's crazy weather we're having in New York still, though. Got the bike out for the first official time.
Okay.
On Saturday. Nice riding there. And then, of course, today it's cold and rainy and 41 degrees.
So tell me, how do we go from 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago?
2 days ago.
2 days
Saturday.
ago.
Yes. Yesterday.
I'm even talking about Friday. Friday was like almost 80 degrees. Right. And I said, okay, this is the weekend for everyone to get sick because it's going to go down to 45 degrees.
Yep, and it went down to 41 degrees.
It went down to 41 degrees. And yesterday I was out in my shorts. And I think I got caught outside a little too late. And the weather changed and I was just like,
Standing on icicles.
Oh, my goodness. But hey, we got a really great show tonight. I like to say all the shows are great shows.
Yes, they are.
But this one is extra special, Rich.
Greater than great?
Greater than great. Oh, my goodness. If even possible, we have just one guest tonight. Okay. Good friend, well, new friend to the show, and also to you, and a friend, someone I can call a friend because we actually had a conversation a few days ago. Adrian Kulp is going to join us. Why is he going to join us? Because he's a dad. He's a dad blogger. He's he's a new author.
Okay.
All the above. Of course, we have to support the dads.
Always.
You know, I mean, I say, and I sound like a broken record, because my kids at home will say to me, "Oh, here he goes again with that," because it's almost the end of April, right?
Yes.
You know what that means, right? You know what's coming around the corner, right?
May.
May, and what happens in the middle of May?
End of school?
Before that,
I don't know. What else is happening?
Mother's Day.
Oh, that again.
And what's going to happen during Mother's Day?
We all must lose our minds, and not that the mothers don't deserve to be special.
They do.
However, it's become a holiday near and dear as close to Christmas, it seems.
Yes. Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter.
And Valentine's Day. All wrapped up into one.
Day. All wrapped up into one. The one thing I will say is try to get into any mall.
Oh, no.
The weekend before.
Oh, no.
The week of.
Right.
And 48 hours before Mother's Day.
Right. Forget it. And
don't
even think about trying to go someplace to eat.
Oh, come on. So I usually, every time this year, whether it's on a podcast or on the radio show, talk about how the dads are always catching the short end of the stick come June.
Father's Day. Oh, that holiday.
Father's Day, you can pull up in any mall to the front.
Park right in the front.
Park right in the front.
Yes.
And you just walk into the mall, buy what you need, and walk out. So that's why we do it for the dads.
Got it.
We got to represent for the dads.
Always.
Tonight's show is called Wanted, Dad or Alive. And I think that's a great segue and lead in to Adrian Kulp, who's going to join us right now, because his Twitter handle is Dad or Alive.
Dad or Alive. I was waiting for the Bon Jovi background.
Big shout out to Brian Graves,
super producer Brian.
Engineer. I don't know if the boss is still here. Jeff Lowe might be in the background, lurking.
I thought I saw him go out the door.
Lurking in the background. But without further ado, Adrian, how you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like Deadliest Catch beat me to the licensing of most of the Bon Jovi music. Otherwise, we could have used that as a lead-in.
You get that first 10 seconds, you don't have to worry about.
Next time we'll do
it.
That's it. Next show, yeah, definitely. So Adrian, what's new? We met briefly a few days ago, and that's thanks to Dada Rocks, who was able to pull us all together, and our marketing team met your marketing team, and we agreed, and checks were cashed, money was exchanged.
Yep.
I missed something. I must have missed something. How you doing, Adrian?
I'm doing well, guys.
Hey.
I miscalculated my, this is, well, first let me say that I'm just honored to be on with you guys. And Sundays are usually my reset day, before the week hits. Probably the same for a lot of people. But, I miscalculated my Sunday meal prep. I literally was probably around 5:30, started dinner for my wife and the kids.
Okay.
And the recipe just took a little bit longer. And I saw it, and it was like 6:52, and I'm yelling to everybody in the house to come down to the table. And I flew through dinner, but got it plated, and bath time's done. Kids are fed. Lunch boxes are out on the counter. I haven't filled them yet, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it in a little bit. But just got some of that stormy weather you guys were talking about. I guess that's coming through New York. It's kind of moving through our area, which is right outside of Virginia. I'm right outside of Virginia Beach, about 20 minutes outside of Suffolk, Virginia.
Okay. So Adrian, I got to ask you, out the gate, you were born just outside of Philadelphia. How are you feeling about your Eagles winning? How are you feeling about the 76ers? Do you still follow those Philly teams? Have you migrated?
I do. No, so, it's I was born and raised about 35, 40 minutes outside of Philadelphia. So we were a very strict Eagles and Phillies specifically. I was into the Flyers and the Sixers as a kid, and I'm coming back to both teams. I was during, I kind of grew up during the Charles Barkley era, Dr. J, then Barkley, and, Moses Malone, and had a lot of fun following them as a kid, but it was always Eagles and Phillies. So this year was extra special, specifically for the Eagles. Getting our first trophy, that was kind of a crazy story in itself. I was actually down at, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Dad 2.0 Summit, which occurs in different cities. It's been going on for, without looking, probably like 8 or 9 years now.
Okay.
So this year it was in Nolens, and I was down there for a few days. I actually, part of what I do, aside from being a blogger at Dad or Live and, working on books and stuff like that, is I also am a partner with a group called Life with Dad, which is a massive online fatherhood community. And we were actually the lead sponsor, media sponsor with Dad 2.0 Summit. So we were down in New Orleans and we were doing some great interviews, bunch of different media components, and I had timed my trip so that I would be home back in Virginia well before the Super Bowl was starting. And as I woke up, I got to the airport in time. I had a connection through Charlotte, and wouldn't you know, there's an ice storm. So I got to Charlotte with my Carson Wentz jersey on, and it's chaos because literally Charlotte Airport looked like a parking lot. And I'm thinking, what are my options here? I can't watch the Eagles potentially win the first Super Bowl and I've been waiting 42 years for this. I can't be standing on the periphery of a bar in the Charlotte Airport with no audio on the TV.
Oh man.
And have that full experience of my hometown team, finally bringing it home. So I calculated all of my options and my risks and stuff, and I literally got, I was like, you know what, I'm going to rent a car. I got enough time. It'll put me back in Virginia Beach by halftime. So maybe I can see Timberlake, but at least I'll see the second half. Okay. And if we bring it home, I'll be there, Right. So I went to the rental car stations, and literally everyone was sold out, except for, I guess it was Hertz. And, I got one of the last cars. They gave me the spot number. I literally was sprinting up the stairs, got up to the parking lot, and there's only like two. This is like a classic movie situation. There's 2 cars left in the lot. So, and I'm looking at it, and one of them is like a brand new Mustang GT, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be killer. At least I'll ride in style. And then next to it was this big old minivan, and I pull the keys out of my pocket, and I go to hit the unlock button, and I'm like, come on baby. I felt like I was in Vegas rolling the dice, and of course,
minivan.
The brake lights click on the minivan, and I'm like, oh man. I can't even escape it here. So I ended up hauling up the coast and actually walked into my house as Timberlake was right in the middle of his performance. So I got to see that second half of the Super Bowl, and hopefully it won't circulate on the internet. But I do know that my wife probably took video of me. I probably watched the whole thing standing, holding a football and shaking, and I'm pretty sure there were, somebody was cutting onions in the room because there was some precipitation coming down my cheek. But what a feeling, man! Just to have, and look, it takes. I always tell people it takes stamina to be a Philadelphia fan. I mean, it really does. We haven't had the best luck. I mean, the Phillies did a great job in '08, but that was one of the last championships that I saw was 1980 Phillies, Mike Schmidt. Steve Carlton, all those guys, but it was cool. So I'm riding high as a Philly native, and then followed up by Villanova.
Yep.
And now I'm looking at the Phillies, and I'm it's tough.
You never know
where we're gonna end up, but we've got a couple good pieces on that team. It's probably going to take us another year or two to sort of iron it out, but yeah. So I grew up outside of Philadelphia, and I lived there until I was about 21, and then migrated to Los Angeles, and was there for about 15 years, working in TV, specifically in comedy and scripted television. That's where I met my wife. I worked for Adam Sandler for about 8 years, and started sort of as an assistant there, and worked myself up to like a vice president of development on the TV side, where we put out a show called Rules Engagement, which was on CBS for a couple of years. That went into syndication with David Spade and Patrick Warburton, a couple other folks. And right now, I was there for the front end of a show called The Goldbergs, which is currently on ABC.
Funny show.
Which is an old buddy of mine, Adam Goldberg, who grew up in Jenkintown in the 80s, just outside of Philadelphia. I watch that show, and I literally feel like I'm reliving my childhood. But yeah, did that, and ran development at Chelsea Handler's company when she was with Chelsea Lately. It was a show on E! For a couple of years.
So did you have any part when she moved over to Netflix?
No. So I had left as we were closing up the deal with E! For her show there. Okay. And there was a lot of restructuring, and that sort of put me in a position of, they couldn't renew my contract. And after 15 years of being in comedy and working myself up to this level that I thought, I'll have no problem getting a job. This was probably around 2009, 2010, sort of on the heels of the economy, sort of dumping out on a lot of us. And I interviewed around at the networks and stuff like that, and it just wasn't there. And I found myself at home with, so I have 3 kids right now, Ava, Charlie, and Mason. They're 8, 6, and 4. Ava at the time was 10 weeks old. So I came home and told my wife, hey,
serious
my
conversation.
contract's not renewed. My wife's going back to work, and I just said, well, why don't I watch Ava, while you go back to work, and, I can bring somebody in to babysit if I need to go on an interview or whatever. And a couple of weeks went by, and it's amazing how quickly you can work, like how long you can work, like as an at an executive capacity in a certain genre of business, and build up this, reputation and all this stuff. It's amazing how quickly you can become irrelevant. And I found that out pretty quickly. The BlackBerry at the time, I had the big wide BlackBerry, which stopped dinging. And the calls were stopping, the emails were stopping, and I'm like, I hate to make this comparison, but I felt, I think we've all probably seen the movie Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton playing Jack Butler. I feel, there was a minute there where I kind of felt like Jack Butler. I'm walking around in a robe, I'm not shaving, and I sort of felt like I was a panicked schizophrenic, just kind of walking around my living room talking to myself. Or, I had my daughter at the time, who's 10 weeks old. She didn't have a lot to say, So I ended up starting this blog called Dad or Alive, and it really was just to, I think, just to write some creative stories. I spent so many years being around crazy talented actors and comedians, and there was never a dull moment. And then all of a sudden, it was like somebody slammed on the brakes, and I had to do something to sort of vacate my mind of everything that was spinning around inside of it, and started writing stories about sort of an unedited perspective from of a stay-at-home dad, and doing the guess and check thing. I had, like I said, Ava was our first, and she was a girl. I grew up with 2 brothers in the country, like I said, about an hour outside of Philadelphia. What do I know about taking care of a girl? Or a kid, for that matter? So it was a lot of guess and check, and I started writing the blog, which turned into a comedic memoir that I wrote in 2013, and I've really just been plugging away ever since. Blogging has sort of evolved over the years, and it continues to do so. I think even more so now. There's a lot of there was, and I think still is, a lot of sponsored work out there, which is how sort of guys like me and some of the other bloggers put food on the table and are able to sort of express ourselves, and whatever the purpose of your writing is, to find mutual commiseration with other dads, but also to toss stuff out there and say, hey, here's my issue. Has anyone else had this happen? And it's been pretty incredible, the amount of dads that are online, and it's weird. It's like the household that I grew up in felt a little bit like All in the Family. I don't know if you guys remember, like, All in the Family.
Of course.
Archie Bunker and Edith Bunker and stuff, and it was kind of a holdover. There's a lot of like, hey, like, dad goes to work, he makes the money. It's kind of like a little bit of that. But I think that dads in general have we've evolved over the last 10, 20 years, and we're more active partners and dads, and I'm proud to be part of that group.
So you've got a new book coming out, right? We're Pregnant, the First-Time Pregnancy Handbook. So it sounds like, unless there's a new one on the way, you've decided to get a little retrospective on your life and go back to the times when you had little ones on the way. Tell us some stories from there, maybe, if you can.
So Ava, we were fortunate enough to welcome Ava in 2009. Charlie came in 2011. Mason came in 2014. And part of the reason I'm running around so crazy right now is, and I think I may have shared this with you a couple days ago, but my wife is pregnant with our fourth.
Congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you. And there's some concerns with this pregnancy, just with age and different thinning of the uterus and different concerns. So this pregnancy is scheduled, and I was thinking that I'd have until sort of like the beginning of May. This new book is coming out on the 24th, which is not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. And I was kind of wanted to be in my home office here, just at home base, able to, I don't know, I like to be here in case something goes down. I'm really doing my best to help with the sort of shameless self-promotion and marketing the book. But her, so her C-section is now scheduled for Friday. So I had to wrap my head around the fact that we're going to have another one here in just a few days. So I'm excited about that. I think that'll complete our family. And it's weird. It's funny how things happen. I mean, again, another cliche, but I truly do believe that there is sort of some greater power that's working in shuffling everyone's deck. And for this opportunity to write this book, and the title is We're Pregnant, the First-Time Dad's Pregnancy Handbook. It was a company from California, a smaller publishing house called Callisto, that reached out to me. It's like September of last year. And it was just so ironic that, we just found out that we were expecting another baby. My wife and I we've been very fortunate with all the pregnancies, and went through a miscarriage last year. And I know a lot of couples go through this and stuff, but it's something that not a lot of folks talk about, which is a shame because it's important. It's hugely impactful, obviously, on mom, but there were some emotions that really hit me hard with that too. So we had continued to try, and like I said, around September, this company reached out to me, and we found out that we were past. I believe at the time we were past that hump with the previous pregnancy, where we sort of, a certain period within the pregnancy from the last one where she had the miscarriage. That day was sort of etched in our minds as we were as she was progressing with this current pregnancy. So it was a big day for us, emotional. We got past it. Baby's healthy. It's all good. And they asked me to write this book. And, I feel like it was a blessing because, I know with the first 3 kids that we had, specifically with Ava, and not growing up with any sisters and trying to stay connected to my wife during those 9 months of pregnancy, can be a challenge. Well, I don't even know whose quote it is, but my wife had mentioned this to me before I started writing the book. As I was considering it, it was a quote that goes something like, "Women become mothers when they first see the double line on the pregnancy test, and men become fathers the first time they hold their baby."
Yeah, that's true.
And I was just sort of thinking about that quote, and again, I'm paraphrasing. Probably whoever I'm quoting is probably that's not what I said.
That's not what I said.
But that's sort of the gist of it. And she had said that to me, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, it feels true, but it's sort of a shame, And it was with that first pregnancy, it was a struggle for me to stay connected with my wife, because she was doing all the heavy lifting, right. Essentially. I was going with her to all of the appointments, which I feel like was a pretty good start in being a connected husband, partner. That made me feel more included. But really, this book, when they approached me with it, they were like, look, we pride ourselves in sort of data and research, and, we look at bookshelves and sort of see where there's a hole, where there's a need for something. And we feel like there's a need for a resource for dad and fathers to be. And I kind of just said, tongue in cheek, I was like, man, I wish you guys would have reached out to me about 8 years ago. I could have saved you a couple grand on research because, when it was my turn back in 2008/9, I couldn't find anything. I mean, a lot of the resources were, there were 1 or 2, but a lot of the resources were geared towards women, written by women, and somewhat technical. Quite honestly, the only book that I read even a portion of was a book called Belly Laughs, which was written by Jenny McCarthy, and it was less of a book filled with factoids and more about, it was almost like a pregnancy comedic memoir sort of, but for anyone who's familiar with Jenny McCarthy from like back in the the MTV days, I guess, and stuff. She's kind of like, she's a little foul-mouthed and kind of, for lack of a better term, conversational tone. Yes. But I could get through it. I could read it, and I was kind of laughing, and it was holding my attention. And anyway, this book that comes out next Tuesday, so Kindle is already out. It's for sale on Amazon right now.
Okay.
Kindle came out April 10th. Okay. The book is on pre-sale right now, so I'm trying to sell as many pre-order copies as I can. It begins shipping next Tuesday on the 24th, and it's 4 trimesters, and I've broken it down into weeks, which I have to say was difficult. I personally, while writing the book, read sort of all the big bestsellers, What to Expect, obviously, which has hit mainstream as a movie, Mayo Clinic, I think there's another book called Great Expectations. There's a lot of pregnancy books out there, for women and stuff, and I wanted to really get a sense of what everyone was reading in order to put this thing together. So each week is filled with mom stats, baby stats, appointments that you shouldn't miss. And the biggest part of this book are the calls to action that I try to come up with. and did come up with. But it's stuff that we can do as fathers and partners, and ways that, you know, aside from just going to the appointments with our wives, ways that we can find to stay connected. Which I think, you know, if we do that over those 9 months, the payoff when the baby finally comes is incredibly larger. So yeah, it's 4 trimesters, and that always kind of makes people look at me a little bit funny, but it does cover the 3 months, you know, after you get home from the hospital.
Right. Because
life changes, and I know that we can all probably relate to that.
I will tell you this much, Adrian. I did get an early copy of the book, but I will go out and support on the 24th, because I don't know. I think we all like to say we're old school. We like a physical book in our hands. I mean,
yeah. This one, the sizing on this, when they sent me an author copy, and I'm like, wow, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be, and I guess that's because we literally titled it Handbook, but
right.
It fits in the back pocket of my Lee jeans. Not that I'm going to, you know, probably stride around town with it in my back pocket, but it's, you know, it's small enough that, you know, that it fits in one hand, you know. And I think the greatest part about this is it really doesn't matter what stage of the pregnancy you're at. The way that I've written it, you know, there is a blend of humorous narrative and personal anecdotes, but it's not necessarily like you can pick it up wherever you want. You know,
Gotcha.
If your wife is 6 months pregnant, you can go. You don't have to read the entire book. You can go right to where you need to be. At the end of each trimester, I sort of did a little bit of homework for everybody else and put together a trimester checklist, which is everything that I sort of have suggested that you should be doing through those trimesters. And it's just a one big checklist that you can go through and be like, okay, did we look for a pediatrician yet? Did we, you know, did I pack a hospital bag? Have we considered baby-proofing the house? I mean, it's, you know,
right.
Stuff like that. With our first pregnancy, I didn't know a lot about it. You know, I was sort of following my wife's lead, and this book sort of encourages and empowers guys like us to, you know, there's one thing that I have to say, that there have been a few times, not a ton, but a few times during these multiple pregnancies that my wife and I have experienced together, where I have been a couple steps ahead of her. And, you know, I see, like, we're trying to watch whatever we're watching on TV, and I see her just buried in her phone, and I'm like, hon, what's going on? Are we watching this together? Or what, you know, can I help you with something? What are you looking at? And she's like, well, I'm trying to find, you know, this or that, or you know, what developmental stage the baby's at. And I literally had been a step ahead, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, and I rip off these facts, and she's looking at me with, like, her jaw hits the floor. And she looked at me with such amazement that it showed that I was involved and aware.
You're engaged. You're in tune.
Engaged.
Yes.
Completely. And I can't really stress enough how impressed I think partners will be, you know, to see that dads are engaged and embracing, you know, those 9 months before the baby comes.
Adrian, want to thank you so much for coming through and joining us, and we plan to have you back again.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I'd love to. I know that I took most of the time talking. Next time, I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Oh, well, we got to read the book first,
That's
and then we can come back. And
let's come. Yeah, I would love to come back and talk to you guys.
And then give you some of our own stories, because for me, it's been over 20 years since I last had to worry about a pregnancy with anyone. So.
Right. And for me, it's 10 years. So.
By the way, so maybe next time around, one of the things that I'm contemplating is, I just actually wrote an article about this. What I didn't realize is that vasectomies, the height of scheduling vasectomies is during March Madness.
During March Madness, wow. No, didn't schedule it during March Madness.
They're literally called grossectomies.
Oh my Lord.
And it's like a trending thing. And I feel like I was reading a couple different articles, Wall Street Journal and different places. Guys are literally grouping together, scheduling at the forefront of March Madness.
Just to have a
in
reason to lay around.
order to be able to sit down for 4 days on the sofa
Yes.
and catch all the games.
Oh my goodness.
and my buddy is like, literally, you'll see I guess it's urologists
Yep.
will run specials during March Madness where they'll be giving discounts. And I looked at my buddy and I'm like, I don't know, man. I appreciate the idea and stuff like that, but cutting me a deal, I don't want to go in and hand over a coupon to get a vasectomy. There's just something, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right with me. So maybe next time we can talk a little bit about that. Since you guys,
good.
Sort of,
I think that's a great subject matter.
Been there, did that. We'll be glad to consult with you.
I love it.
Adrian, thanks so much. All right.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Adrian.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
You too. Thank you. There you go. There he is, dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
Dead or alive. Cowboy. One thing you can say for sure, the man is engaged and dedicated and has his heart in his book.
That's true. That's true.
And that's good.
I will say this much. We don't do too many long form conversations. We kind of get them in, get them out. It's
right.
like it's.
Let him run with it.
But I think it was great because we are dads.
Yep.
We've gone through, and it's like some of the dads where we work with, we see some of the struggles. Like one of the dads was telling me last week, one of our friends was telling me, he's potty training his son.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh, do I ever remember
those days?
It's stuff like that where you go through, and I think it adds a different element to the show because we've only had less than a handful of dad actual bloggers.
That's true.
To talk about this.
That's true.
We're heavy tech, we're heavy entrepreneur.
Yes.
So it's good. It's good. So since we're talking tech, Rich, last week, if you were, I don't know, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Chief Information Officer, VP of Technology, if you were any of those titles and you worked for Facebook, would you say last week was good, bad, or indifferent?
You know what? I think overall last week was good.
Okay.
What did we learn last week for sure? We learned that those in higher places in the government have no clue about technology. Specifically around Facebook and social media and how it works.
Rich, I will say this much. It was so painful watching that. It's kind of like when I walked my dad through email the first time.
Right.
This is how you use email. And he's just like, what is this?
Well, how do I put a stamp on it?
How do we, stuff like that.
So how do you make money? If you have a free model, how do you make money?
How do you make money?
Ads.
I think also the utopia, the open landmark, they need to do a better job securing.
Absolutely. That's also kind of why, even though maybe it was not a bad mark for Facebook per se.
They didn't lose money last week.
They didn't lose money last week. It is necessary, and I don't think they ever would have said no. All the extra privacy rules, controls, regulations, whatever regulations come from it, aren't necessary. It's they seem to agree.
Yeah, they seem to agree.
What's necessary. So I think that's a good thing too. I think from the clips I saw from the interrogation, if you will, Zuckerberg did okay.
They were wearing him out.
They were. He did okay.
He did okay.
Got to go with the meme. He had to have the booster seat the first day. Okay, Zuck, I know, but vertically challenged.
Yeah, what, 5'6", 5'5",
5'7",
5'7", okay.
Yeah. But
not that short.
No, that's not that bad. They didn't need it. But he did well. It highlighted a lot of what government, or those at least who were doing the interviews, don't understand. I think the general population understood more. And all in all, good will come of it.
Yeah, I think I err on the side of needing regulation when the government comes in to regulate something, but it's needed because, like, think about it. Steering wheels, airbags. It's like certain things that, you do need that.
And your data safety is just as important as your physical safety.
Well, all the time, and I won't burn up too much time in saying
Go ahead.
why I hate Facebook.
Ted, why do you hate Facebook?
Because people, you just throw all your, everything. You pour everything out there, and I'm like, okay, so I can find out where you are right now by looking at the geotag on the picture.
Yes.
Okay, and it's, come on, stop.
And that's another reason why it's good, though. People are now, some people are now realizing,
yes,
okay, maybe all of that data and informational sharing wasn't the best idea.
Oh, come on.
I went and I looked at, I did the download of my Facebook data to go see. And, for me, of course, it wasn't that bad because I had some sense about it. I checked and saw if I was part of the big
Cambridge
breach.
Analytica?
Yeah, I was not a part of that, even though someone I know was. So therefore, some stuff was shared.
Gotcha.
But yeah, everyone should download their data, look and see everything you've posted forever since you've been there, your conversations, all your information. And the biggest thing I would say is go in there and look at the app list and disable access to all the apps except the ones you really truly use.
Oh my goodness!
Want to have your data.
Everything that you wanted to click like to. So the big thing for me this past week with Facebook, and I'll try to wrap it up really quick because I want to get to another topic, is the repeated story of, hey, I was having a conversation with my aunt, Dolores, and we were talking about, a loved
Facebook
one.
Messaging me.
We were talking about a loved one.
Right.
So guess what? When she opened her Facebook, it was nothing but a collage of that person listed. Like, hey, this is sponsored. Only you can see this. We wanted. Come on. Are they listening? They're always listening.
Just say it out loud. Say, okay, Google. Say, hey, Siri.
Want to segue? We can beat up Facebook next week. Serious incident. Starbucks, Philadelphia. We don't have time to delve into these questions, but the CEO, the CEO
has come out against it.
Boots are on the ground in Philadelphia. They're talking with community leaders, police. Rich, who and why were the cops called?
So, from what I've read and what I've seen, this is probably going to come down to that specific barista. Overreacting is a lessening of the term. There should have been zero reaction. There was no need for the person to get involved or say anything to the gentleman except, can we get you something? I would have gone for that. And what, the guys just wanted to use the restroom before their friend came?
Right.
I don't care how long they've been sitting there. How many times have you gone into Starbucks and some people just sitting around, some with coffee, some just without,
some just on their laptops,
just using the Wi-Fi.
Using the Wi-Fi. Come on,
and listen to the music.
Come on.
So far the reaction we're seeing from Starbucks seems to be, I'll give it appropriate. They'll probably, it's so early in the game. There will be more. You can be sure that they will have some sort of corporate training, sensitivity training, something that they're going to mandate for all of their employees. I would guarantee that their HR people are scrambling right now to put that together. And then but why call the cops? Well, that's going to be just because you're scared that there were black people standing in the room and they weren't doing anything and you didn't know why they were there. That's why this person called the cops. No reason to call the cops. So once the cops get there,
why did they assume, it's the black guys?
Well, did they? I don't know. I don't know what happened when they walked in. If that's on video, that would be interesting.
Well, I saw a post today by a white woman
who was there,
who recorded everything.
Okay, she got the beginning. Okay,
and she said, "You know what? I don't have to go through this."
Right.
And she said, "There's always some type of comments made when a person of color, black or brown, says, 'Hey, I was profiled.'
Right.
Hey, there was some type of wrong, treatment by X, Y, or Z." She she got to see it with her own eyes, and she said, "Oh my goodness,
I don't believe this really happened.
I don't believe this, and why didn't they approach me?"
Right.
She said, "I was just sitting there on my laptop."
Right. Okay. So this will be the semi-segue into my other life. But the local police department is, and this was before this incident, obviously, is actively addressing this implicit bias is what it's called. And Suffolk County, at least, has programs which they are rolling out to all the police officers in the county. Good. Specifically addressing these issues.
Yeah, you have to.
Because and our auxiliary class are the first ones to get it.
All right.
So it's one of those things. But yeah, this is just, maybe this will be a little bit more of a wake-up call for some people. Obviously it has been, even if it was just for that one person who will now spread it in their neighborhood, like, why this didn't have to happen. This was totally unnecessary, and these gentlemen were doing absolutely nothing. And of course, they've been fully released.
Oh yeah, weren't arrested.
No charges.
Nothing,
and apologies.
Hell of a lawsuit.
And
hell of a lawsuit.
You know that's coming.
Hey, I got a question for you as we segue from that. Didn't do any station breaks. This is Late Night Parents. Didn't do that at all today on this show. But it's okay. There's only a few people that are going to be upset with us. No more signing on the dotted line, Richie.
It's about time.
Really?
It's about time.
No, we need to sign on the dotted line.
How many times have you signed Mickey Mouse? And it wasn't caught, and it didn't matter.
I've signed Robert De Niro.
See, I've changed it so you can't even see. You know that the initials are the same, but the signature is different. I mean, since the chips have been rolled out with the cards, you physically have the card there at this point. It's not going to make much of a difference with the signature because, again, so many people just scribble something, you can't tell what it is, and after you make the phone call to your credit card company, if in fact you lost your card, you call it in. It takes care of the issue anyway. With the chip, it's just ensuring that it is the actual card, not a counterfeit. So
American Express, Visa, Discover, MasterCard.
Right, they're all doing it for at least the United States and Canada. I think Discover is not doing Europe right away, I believe it is.
Nope.
But that's coming.
Not at all. Quickly, want to go to Netflix most popular DVDs of all time. Post that's available on Late Night Parents. Did you know that they're still generating Netflix racked up $450 million in revenue from domestic DVDs last year.
There are a lot of people out there still doing DVDs.
Down from $542 million a year. We think it's all about streaming.
Right.
The streaming services and everything else like that.
DVDs are the way to go, and Blu-rays. I mean, still, it's not a bad deal. I forget if, how much the Blu-ray portion of the subscription is. But that's still a fair deal if you don't want to just go buy the Blu-rays every time. You go out there, get them, see it a couple of times, send it back.
I mean, just seriously, when you look at a specific Blu-ray, let's say Avatar.
Right.
You watch it.
Yep.
You see, the secondary Blu-ray with, trailers and everything else like that. Then what do you do with it? Store it?
Avatar, no, I watched that about 5-6 times.
Okay.
But you're right. There are plenty of them, which, 1 or 2 times, and that's it.
Wow.
And it sits there. But, me, though. I will still take a Blu-ray over streaming any day of the week.
Okay.
Because I like the sound. And, we're getting better. Streaming quality is definitely getting better. I have yet to commit to a dedicated streaming box for any of the TVs.
Okay.
Still really just a Netflix guy for the most part. Running that.
Amazon too.
And Amazon, I'll stream that sometime.
It's
on the bigger screens.
The best thing about Amazon, and I know we beat up on Amazon every week.
Yeah, we do.
The 4K
content. Yes.
They don't hit you for that extra $2 or $3 a month like Netflix does.
Right.
That to me that's kind of crappy sometimes.
It's a good deal. Well, that's so they can get everyone to get Fire Sticks.
Right.
Get that Fire Stick, get the 4K come to the family. But let's see. I'm looking at this list here, the top Netflix DVDs. I wonder. So this is by rental count. Is this?
This is by the overall rental count.
Number one kind of surprises me.
Wonder Woman?
Is this not in order? The Big Lebowski?
Oh yeah, from 1999.
Yeah,
no, this is per year. The number.
Oh,
one.
I'm looking at it now. Okay, all right, that's better. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm looking at that list. Of course, number 2017 Wonder Woman makes total sense. And by the way, Big Lebowski. Never seen that movie.
No.
No.
Oh my goodness. Hey, before we close out of here, did you hear about the teen that was in the Detroit suburb that was shot at in Rochester Hills?
Oh, because he knocked on someone's door looking for directions?
Yeah. What in the world is going on?
What was that? Implicit bias? And that's a person who should not have had a handgun, should not have had a weapon, and I hope to get charged.
You know,
they have to get charged. Someone who doesn't try to break into your door, but rings your doorbell or knocks on your door, whatever the case may be, and they ask you a question.
14-year-old kid. And
you're that scared that, oh my God, it's a black kid at my door. And you shoot him. Throw the book at this person. See, that's what has to start happening.
But it won't.
I'm not going to say it never will. It will at some point. We're getting closer to a point where
you think so?
Enough people are like, you know what, enough is enough. This has always been uncalled for. But you really start to have to punish people extremely to the limits of what is legal, so the idea gets across.
I hope we get to that place. I really can't see it. I mean, or like you said, someone needs to be made an example out of.
Right. Yeah.
You know, even if you fully don't get to that place, if someone's made an example out of, they will stop that.
Or at least it'll limit it somewhat. It'll never stop. You're right there. It'll never stop. But you can get a handle on it. Get some controls. Limit it somewhat. Any amount is better than none. I think.
As we flip, what are you doing this week?
This week is work.
This week is work. I tell you, I got to sit in your seat last week. It was chaos, mayhem, answering your phone, people knocking on the door.
And then they see that it wasn't me and they turn around.
And they turned away. They were just like, I don't want to talk to you. You're a cheap suit. You're an empty suit. But best ways to get in contact with you, Richie B?
As has been for a good year now. Late Night Rich.
And I am the real Ted Hicks. We're about to close out, but everyone, we ask you to have a great week and be the best version of yourself.
There you go. Good one, Ted.
All right.
Everyone, thanks for listening. Have a great week.